So let us go ahead and start with our second passage here. The second passage begins by introducing classical utilitarians to us. So, what is good, what is bad at times. One of the ways, or at least according to one ideology, the measure of whether something is good or bad is the utility. Utility in terms of whether it brings you pleasure or pain. So something that brings you pleasure is obviously better, something that brings you pain is not that great. And then when you look at it, pleasure minus pain, then you can start calling it hedonism, right? So this introduces you to hedonism, and then there is a paragraph that talks about the fact that if you define pleasure and pain in very broad terms, you will encounter difficulties. So what are those difficulties? Those difficulties have been stated here. Then the next paragraph once again extends this further. But then the fourth paragraph brings in a different theory, the desire fulfillment theory. But then if you move further ahead, it says that okay, even desire fulfillment theory has some problems, and then these couple of paragraphs talk about those shortcomings or those problems with the desire fulfillment theory. So let's dive into our questions. Which one of the following statements, if false, could be seen as contradicting the facts or arguments? So let's simplify it first. Can I say if true, then it is consistent with the passage? Or in other words, one of these answer choices is true as per the passage, that answer choice is going to be our answer, and the ones which are inconsistent with the passage, false or can't say as per the passage, they are the ones that we can go ahead and eliminate. So let's start with option A. Option A says hedonism includes the satisfaction of desires disconnected from that person's life. Not really, hedonism, if you look at the third paragraph, it specifically says that hedonism is all about felt pleasures, felt pains. So anything which is disconnected, anything that the person does not feel, obviously will not be a part of hedonism, and therefore A is inconsistent. Let's rule it out. B, the fulfillment of desires that does not have any perceived benefit or pleasure is also hedonism. No, that will once again take us towards the desire fulfillment theory and not hedonism. Hedonism involves perceived pleasures only, felt pleasure and felt pain, not just pleasure. So C is also inconsistent. D, because it mentions only D, the desire fulfillment theory is more comprehensive and extensive in scope than hedonism. Yes, that's in fact something that is stated in the second last paragraph. Fortunately, we're very close to it. So let's go. See, notice this is broader than hedonism, and therefore this can be termed true on the basis of that particular part, and thus our answer for fifth should be option D. Let's get into our next question. This asks us for the accurate description of hedonism. So hedonism, it is solely to do with sensed pleasure and pain. Yes, it is all about felt pleasure and pain, and sensed is a synonym. So this definitely talks about hedonism. Let us see if something does an even better job, some other option. B, it has wider application than the desire fulfillment theory. No, the passage does not even talk about wider application. It does tell us that desire fulfillment theory is broader. So if anything, it should be the desire fulfillment theory that should have a wider application. So this is either irrelevant or false, can be ruled out. Sorry, not A, but just this one. So this can be ruled out. Hedonism does take into account pleasures experienced from disjointed events. No, it is all about felt pleasure. So this is inconsistent. D, it is not as sweeping and extensive a theory as utilitarianism. We don't know. Utilitarianism has been mentioned in the very first paragraph, but even there all we know is classical utilitarianism. Just one sentence. So which one of these two is extensive is something that cannot really be determined on the basis of the information provided, and thus D is also ruled out. So A turns out to be the best answer choice. So for question number 6, let's go ahead and choose A as our answer. Let's look at 7th. A major difference between hedonism and desire fulfillment theory is that. So where exactly is that difference mentioned? Third last paragraph. So you can refer to that and then move on. So let's have a look at A. Hedonism involves pleasure and pain, while the desire fulfillment theory has to do with benefit and harm. Okay. Now see, the difference is desire fulfillment theory goes on to say that any desire that gets fulfilled constitutes a benefit, whether you feel it or not is irrelevant. So your pleasure and pain, your felt pleasure and felt pain is irrelevant to it. So that's the difference that we are talking about. So in A, when we say that hedonism involves pleasure and pain, benefit and harm, see, both of them involve pleasure and pain. Felt or not is a different story. Both of them involve benefit and harm. So as far as the involvement of these terms go, that involvement is there. The only difference is whether it is felt or not, and whether they are connected to actual, whether your pleasure is connected to actual benefit derived or not. So that should help us rule out option A. Let's look at B. B says hedonism only deals with perceived pleasure and pain, even if the person, absolutely, B definitely captures it to a large extent. How about C? Also, okay, so the first half of C is all right, but the second half, when it says desire fulfillment theory also takes into account actions with no benefits, that's something that we wouldn't know, right? So this is not mentioned, and therefore I'd say that C, because of the second half, can be ruled out. How about option D? The desire fulfillment theory gives a more accurate and comprehensive definition of pleasure and pain. This goes beyond the scope of the passage. Whether it is more accurate or not is not something that is mentioned. In fact, the passage does talk about the shortcomings of both the theories subsequently. So there is no, so we cannot really attach an exactly positive tone with the desire fulfillment theory. So that helps us rule out D as well, and thus our answer should be option B for question number 7. Here is the next one. The author has given the example of counting all the blades of grass in the lawns on this road to illustrate what? So he's basically said that, I mean, if you refer to the last paragraph, it is given to prove that desire fulfillment theory can at times be connected with some absurd desires. And if you look at absurd desires, I mean, the only option that talks about that absurd desire is this one right here, which talks about far-fetched. A is not giving you the difference. B, major corollary, not at all. D is not, of course, giving you the difference between hedonism and desire fulfillment theory. It is given to tell us that one of the shortcomings of desire fulfillment theory is that it can be connected with very absurd desires, and that is, as I said, far-fetched is available only in C. We don't have that element of absurdity in any other option, and therefore our answer to question number 8 should be option C. So that takes care of our passage number 2.